Good morning and thank you for joining us. You are live on Sunrise. I'm Alero Edu.
And I'm Ayo Makine. As you can see, all the colors align. Put the one in front of the camera and the one
behind. And it wasn't planned, I promise.
Well, it wasn't planned, but I guess there are plans that we didn't know were happening. Like, you know, part of the plans that many people will be wondering is one of the questions that a number of people are still asking. You asked that same question last week. What's the plan?
Where those people are?
Yes, the oil thieves.
Well,
Let's just break the candy.
Has the story just died or what? We don't hear any investigation progressing, and in what direction. We don't hear anything.
On, I think it was yesterday, we had the chairman of anti-corruption in the House of Representatives, and the anti-corruption committee in the House of Representatives. And we asked questions around, you know, talking about the oil and gas industry and the corruption therein and all. Of course, Gillis Harris, president of Petron, was also there. We're asking, look, we are trying to deal with the oil and gas industry, but then there are the issues of corruption and all those things, oil thieves and all. And he said that, you know, what he heard, that privileged information at his disposal was that these people are being prosecuted. And I'm wondering, people? Who are they?
Thank you.
If you want,
should it be in the public domain?
More information, you can go to Channels TV's YouTube channel. Tom Polo, we interviewed him, said he has a comprehensive list of the oil thieves. So we're not looking for
them. We
a
know.
needle in a haystack.
We know them.
Know. Someone said, I have the list.
Take the list and prosecute them.
Collect the list from him and ask them questions. I don't see how this thing is a big deal. But, you know, so...
It's become rocket science.
We have to need Boyle's law and... So we know all the things that need to be... If we're trying to cover some people, we can understand. But the thing is, it's not going to work. Because
that's not going to happen. I mean, that's going to happen because it's not Ayo Makinde and it's not Alero Edu who are the thieves.
So we need to...
There are big people in this society.
Exactly. Nigerians need to know who the oil thieves are.
Who are those sabotaging the country?
Thank you. Don't just name and shame. Prosecute and jail. We don't want... Because they have... Look, someone said something that Nigeria... You know the time we had the oil boom during the Jonathan government? Government made a lot of money. But now that we are broke. Oil boom is seems to be oil doom. You know, we're selling so much and not being able, selling at such a high price, we're not able to milk the resources. And also, Nigerians need to know who the oil thieves are. Well,
it was good news yesterday. They said the day before or something that we actually produced 1 million barrels.
So, out of 1.8, we produce 1 million.
From less than 1 million now. Well, gradually. Well, that is making us assume that they have plugged some of those loopholes where the thieves were operating before.
Don't forget that it was in this same week that the GMD of NNPCL said they've located about 295, you know, illegal pipelines and several thousands of, what do you call it, illegal refineries that they call cooking pots. And that marveled me, by the way. Okay. You know why? They said
my clapping was short-lived.
It is short-lived because we hear that illegal refineries are. They say they are cooking pots.
Benny.
Fine, but they cook. And what's funny about that is, from what we gather, people in the communities use refined whatever from those cooking pots. So it means that oil refining is not rocket science. It means that some people can really do that. We are not saying it is legal to legalize illegality. Did I speak that right? It's not legal to legalize illegality. Make the sense out of that what you want. But the thing is, at the end of the day, these people function for some people
And they are using those things, and those things have not caused damage?
Exactly. And it's a whole gamut of things. So shutting them down is fine because they are,
illegal.
They are illegal, and then they are also messing up the climate, and then ozone layer and all those things. Fine. But at the end of the day, these things are not rocket science. Our refineries can work. What's sabotaging them? Let's get to it and make some money for this country and help to build a better Nigeria.
Well, moving to something rather sad, the jumping off the bridge of Adetutu Adedokun 2 days ago or so. That's rather sad, and it brings to the fore again the fact that conditions in this country are making a lot of people go through all kinds of mental health issues. That is driving them to jump off bridges and stuff like that.
You've touched a sore point. We hear, many years ago, you are older than I am, so you would know that in this country, it was said that it was unthinkable for Nigerians to contemplate suicide.
Yes.
Now, it is our reality.
Yeah.
And that's just one. How about the destitutes on the streets? Just this morning, I had a strange call from someone, and the person was talking about a man who is a destitute somewhere around Mushin, at 20 Bambue Street, off Layo Yekomi Street in Mushin. And this man suddenly collapsed about 3-4 days back, and they've been trying. He's an elderly man. He's a destitute. They've been trying to revive the man. They called all the emergency lines of the Lagos State, government and all of that to at least take this man to the place. I asked, why don't you guys take him to the hospital? They said they don't know anything about him. And if they go to the hospital is going to ask them questions they don't have answers to. So that one is still there. As we speak, I don't know if the Lagos State government has eventually picked the calls. Now, how many people in various communities all over Nigeria, 36 states with the federal capital, have such situations that no one is talking about? We've heard about Adetutu. We understand that Adetutu, from information available to us at Channels Television, was a staff of DSS and was a combat trainer. Now, what that says to me is she goes to work every day, comes back every day. Who knows what is happening to her, what she is going through? It only also raises. I saw there's a series I watched back in time called Billions. They are a stock trading company, but they had a psychologist in-house. From time to time, once they see that your productivity level is dropping, go see the psychologist. What's going on with you?
Well, in times past, we used to wonder what exactly psychologists did. Yeah. Now we know exactly what they do, and now we know that they are in big business right now. In fact,
back in time in Nigeria, if you say you wanted to see a psychologist, but now look at the situation of this young lady. From the report we have, she just got out of the car after an argument and plunged in the lagoon, and it's really heart-wrenching that would even happen. She's a pretty lady from the pictures that we see all over the place. How many people we have? Look at that. That's the picture, and that's the rescue effort that is being made. How many people in our country are going through this and no one is aware? We all wear a smile. Yes. I remember this thing that I saw I think it was in it's King Emene. The man. The proverb says, "All lizards lie prostrate." I think it's a Yoruba proverb. All lizards lie prostrate. You don't know the one that has a bellyache.
Tummy ache.
So the efforts are ongoing, and several people, we walk, we ride in the same bus, we sometimes see ourselves on the street, we are neighbors and all those things, yet look at this young lady. Yes. A complete destiny wrecked. And how many people depend on her? And several other Nigerians like that. So the fact that someone comes to the office with a smile every day, someone is looking all gaily, doesn't mean that everything is okay. Yeah. Sometimes what I look out for in a lady, I look at the makeup. If her makeup is out of place, I'm asking myself, wait, is everything all right? No, starting from the makeup, because sometimes, you know, women, you know, you guys, you love it perfect. But if anything, just a slight something off, I'm asking questions.
And the appeal we made during COVID, we're going to make again today. Ask for your neighbor, make a phone call, ask somebody, so how are you today? That just might make a difference for them between life and death.
Absolutely.
How are you today? That's all. Give them a smile.
Some of us have thousands of contacts on our phones. You know, sometimes I'll just pick up my phone and call someone that I haven't called in like 3, 4, 6 months, sometimes a year. Say, I'll just say something like, how can I have a number on my phone that I don't use? I'll just call you out of the blues. So it just brings to mind that song that is making the rounds now, My Friend. And so call someone. You really don't know what people are going through. You just say something nice. I just called to check on you.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. It may make a difference.
Absolutely.
To their lives. And the rains have refused to go away.
That's one of the heartaches that people have.
The rains have refused. It rained again yesterday.
Heavy.
Heavy rain in middle of November.
Yeah.
Come on, we're supposed to be feeling the Hamatan.
I don't think that's climate change, that's climate shift.
We're supposed to be feeling the Hamatan already.
That's climate shift.
And we're still having rain.
Well, there is usually after the heavy rains. You know, it was also reported. I think it was one of these agencies of government that said, expect more floods this year. So we better be ready. We just better be ready.
It's not done yet.
And then there's something we were discussing. It would seem like sometimes the aftermath of flooding becomes some kind of tourism site for some people. Sad as that sounds.
Tourism site?
Yes, because you're wondering, hey, I didn't see this place like this before. And then you just take is it a canoe ride, and just want to go and see the
canoe ride on a road.
You know?
And this is all coming out of the fact that we're told that Africa is the next tourism destination in the world. So there's a conference coming up this week sometime where all this is going to be discussed. And I'm thinking, okay, Africa is going to be the next destination, but we don't have any roads. The people are one kind, two kind, as they say in Pidgin. So who is going to want to come and visit? Yes, there are sites in Nigeria. There's no doubt about that. We have, look at the warm springs. Look at the lake you were telling me about this morning.
Yes, the hanging
lake.
Look
at the Yankari Game Reserve. Those places and some innocuous places that we don't even know about, they all exist in this country. And yet, because of bad leadership and things happening to the people who live in this country, which has turned them into people that we don't know anymore. Nigerians used to be very helpful and very kind people, but the circumstances in which they find themselves have made them into people that we don't even recognize anymore.
Everyone seems to be defensive. Yeah,
yes.
I saw a report this morning, well, it's an old one, that Lagos State is planning to make Lagos Africa's hottest tourism destination. You're wondering, what does Lagos have? The question I'm going to ask is, what does Dubai have? Or what did Dubai have? Now everybody's going.
Well, Dubai made itself what it is.
Dubai made itself. Yeah. Now, it's one state that is saying they are coming up with a tourism master plan.
We're waiting.
Oyo State has that, lake that I talked about. It's at Ado-Awaye, somewhere not too far from Iseyin, Oyo State. So that would be something that an Oyo State government, for instance, should be very much interested in.
In marketing, yes.
Market. You talked about Yankari Games Reserves. I don't know, I don't remember exactly what state it is. That's Bauchi. Something that the Bauchi State, that's something that the state government should do something about. And several other people should be interested in all these things. Let the states champion some of these things and not just wait for the federal government all the time. This conversation, the conference you're talking about, for instance, is being championed by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. That's fine. But what are the states doing? Let's not all centralize all these things and say, unless the federal government. Who is the federal government?
Okay, States.
Over to you.
The ball is now in your court.
The baton is yours.
Now to our menu. We're going to start, of course, with curbing electoral violence. I mean, in light of what happened in the course of the week, we need to look at this again, despite the agreements that were, the accords that were signed before the campaign started.
It's a accord. Sounds like maybe you use another car. The next thing, of course, we'll be talking about the World Tourism Conference. Of course, it's going to be coming up in Lagos. More information about that later on today.
Then we have the African Tale of Christmas. What's that?
Very good question. I'll answer that later. And then lifestyle today, we're talking about heart health. What does that mean? Find the details later on.
And we have our guest artist, who is somebody who's going to make you roll on the floor, like they say, ROTFL.
And one of the
rolling on the floor laughing.
And LOL.
LOL. LOLZ.
Now.
Yes. That's the plural.
Contemporary mama. Okay.
Don't joke.
All right, that's it. So that's the lineup for this morning. We're back right after now to take them on. So please grab your cup of cocoa, or if you prefer, cocoa.
Well, I got tea today. Cheers.
I will be right back.
For staying with us. Now let's get the show on the road. It is exactly 104 days to the 2023 general elections, and in spite of the accords that have been signed, we have seen some violence here and there in the country. Notably was the one on the presidential candidate of the PDP in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, and some in Kogi in North Central. So what does all this signify? What was the point of those accords that were signed and all the political parties were there seated? Well, we have some people who will have opinions regarding this and other electoral issues, of course. It's my pleasure to welcome Kingsley Uzoma, who is a security analyst, as well as Jonathan Jubrin, a public affairs analyst, both of whom are joining us from our studio in Abuja. Good morning, gentlemen.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Let me begin with you, Kingsley. What do you make of this recent development in spite of the accords that were signed?
Okay, thank you. You see, the problem is that some political parties and candidates, supporters, they believe that election in this part of the world is what you get, is not what you get with ease, but rather it goes with some forms of intimidation for you to really show that you are in charge. But it goes beyond signing an accord, because the accord was signed by the party figures or the candidates. How about the supporters who designed the ethics or code of conduct for them during rallies? Yes, the onus is not on the police, which is the lead security agency, not just on internal security, but as long as election is concerned, the police is the #1 partner of the electoral management body. So from the report we have and on the field, like the one that happened in the north, yes, they were like, the report has it that the police officers looked away while these things were going on. So that the answer is, who questions these officers? Yes, beyond having a VIP personnel, the police officers and other security personnel on guard should be able to, we should be able to hold them responsible, because their protection is not just for the VIPs, but to make sure that hoodlums does not hijack any rally whatsoever.
There's been plenty of talk about hoodlums and hiring thugs and all that. And yet, this is still happening. And we hear from what we heard yesterday, the police are denying that there was no violence in Maiduguri.
The issue is that I'm very much aware that the police, they've been doing threat assessment and analysis. So for that particular issue, yes, you know, this politics and the way we operate in this part of the world, at times it seems as if the police personnel are complicit in the sense that they are loyal to certain political parties in power or individual. But again, we've been looking into that because I'm aware of certain things going behind the scene to see how these issues can be tackled. So it's been mapped out on locations, areas where these things are common, and the IG of police, I'm aware that behind the scene they are working something out to make sure that maybe they are neutral on matters of protecting party members, rallies, among other critical infrastructure.
Well, while that is going on, of course, we also know that at some point the IG said, well, maybe the PRO in the state, Borno, was a little hasty, and that they have set up some kind of panel. And I'm pretty sure you're aware of that as well. One of the challenges that one sees here is, and my colleague here, Electoral, talked about the accords and all of that they signed earlier about this thing. Is that to say that all of that was just for the cameras and that it didn't drill down, or that the political parties themselves are not just taking it serious? So what then, in your opinion, is the essence of the accords, the peace accords that were signed? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Please go ahead. Did you hear the question?
Yes. Okay. The essence of the peace accord is that yes, we all saw it before the cameras, and other, like I said, the party figures, the candidates were the ones that were privy to the agreement. But what happens to the supporters? Okay, the supporters are not party to the agreement, and these supporters know, like when we hear they say a certain political party has no structure. Part of what maybe they consider as structure is having these hoodlums, maybe in the nooks and crannies, who are able maybe to intimidate, because in Nigeria, intimidation is part of the process, and I'm very sure that INEC, they are looking into that to see how that can be reduced drastically. But again, we also have works to do at home and in various religious bodies in terms of counseling these youths or these persons that are agents or movers or vehicle through which these evils are being perpetrated. But another thing you must consider is the ease of getting drugs. So the ease of getting drugs, most of the people who perpetrate this, they are under influence of one substance or the other. And the NDLUA more recently has been doing quite well in that area, but we need more from them. Because none of these, they don't perpetrate this in their clear eyes. So they are either in order the influence of a substance and at the same time motivation in terms of cash.
Well, in terms of analysis, security analysis, one of the things that's also been alleged is that that perhaps there is a need for some form of coordination in how the political parties gather for their campaigns, their rallies, and all of that. Because there are those who are wondering how one political party is holding a major event while another one, is doing something for the citizens or indigents of the state at about the same time, which is what some people say is reason why the opposition was out in large numbers at about the same time as the Atiku convoy was passing. What kind of coordination do you see happening or necessary in order for us not to hear this kind of stories again?
Okay, I think witnessed one of the off-cycle election that was held in one of the states, where for maybe a particular party had their mega rally, say 2 days ago, which ended their rally. Then another scheduled the mega rally, say today. So the party that had a mega rally day before yesterday did what I call a counter rally in the same route. It triggered some level of violence. So the duty, the onus is now on the electoral management body, which they have the guidelines to make sure that these parties and candidates follow it. But again, they are like the kind of politics they play. They say it's a game. You really need to outsmart the other party. So in doing that, when they discover that, oh, this party, if they are to be in my state today and they will have a larger crowd, they will think that, yes, this state is obviously for party XYZ, for instance. So a counter rally had to be planned to make sure that they depopulate the other parties. But again, then the police has also said for you to hold such rallies, put right thoughts in writing so we can plan adequately in terms of protection. So, however, it's usually that the party in power, especially at the federal level, often get a large portion of the security guards.
But Kingsley, you spoke about the supporters earlier. Don't you think that if a supporter of a political party misbehaves, it should be on the party?
Ideally, that's how it should be, or what we recommend him. But you know, the kind of politics we play and what they have. And yesterday at another show, I learned that INEC is putting that in place. I'm not speaking for them, but I'm privy of such information, whereby political parties will be held responsible for such. And they're also now watching the utterances of the candidates, wherefore if a candidate utterances is perceived to trigger violence through their supporters against an opposition whatsoever, they will be held liable for such utterances.
This brings us back to the issue of education. The political parties educating their supporters. This kind of behavior is not acceptable. If you do this, we'll all be penalized for it. So you need to toe the line. Are the political parties doing enough to educate their supporters?
No political party can be said to be doing enough to educate their supporters. So rather, the onus falls back to the INEC, the Electoral Management Body, in terms of the Commissioner on Voters' Education, to plan more town hall meetings, get these political parties involved to make sure that at every point in time, in town hall meetings at the maybe ward level, local government level, and at state level, even including utilizing maybe other avenue like the social media, to make sure that these informations are passed to these supporters, and maybe they have to make a stiff penalty to ensure that maybe before you have yourself engaged or become an agent of violence, you know the repercussion that goes with it. So it's not just the INEC, the political parties have a responsibility on that aspect to do. The security agencies also have key responsibility to do, to make sure that in their intelligence gathering, they are able to map up and spot these individuals and a group of persons that are capable of causing violence.
It's very interesting that, we'll come back to you, Kingsley, but, it's interesting some of these issues that we have. The education here now is about, you asked a question about the supporters. And that's really very, very important. I hope we'll be able to take that on with, the next guest, who is also a public affairs person. Because yesterday when we were chatting, we talked about the responsibility of the people themselves. The people are in various communities. The people are the ones who vote. The people are members of political parties. The people are the ones who go to the rallies. The people are the ones who clash with people. Unfortunately, that's just the reality that we have on our hands. So it's a lot of work for us as a people. And we have to find a way to ensure that at the end of the day, we're just one people.
Yeah.
We're neighbors, we're friends, and all those things.
But Kingsley said that the INEC commissioner in charge of voter education that the onus is on him. Well, the onus might be on him to call the leaders of the political parties. But I think to reach the supporter, it is the political party itself. Because if INEC calls a town hall meeting, for instance, I don't suppose that every supporter is going to walk in there and go and listen to what INEC has to say. But if the political party calls a meeting of its supporters, they're more likely to show up, don't you think?
And I think it's a responsibility that they themselves have, the political parties. Voter education is not just for INEC. We need to make that very clear.
Yes.
Voter education is not just for INEC. INEC is not the one canvassing for votes.
Thank you.
So maybe our next guest might be interested in having that conversation with you.
Mr. Jonathan Jibrin, who is a public affairs analyst, is with us in our Abuja studio. Thank you very much for joining us again. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Let us just throw that question straight at you. This issue of voter education. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that the voter education thing goes beyond INEC. There is the National Orientation Agency, which, by law of establishment, has the mandate to, educate Nigerians on behavior, not just in election, but also a pattern of behavior that portrays Nigeria, the good, Nigerians as good citizens. So I feel that the National Orientation Agency can also double up with INEC and then go on propaganda, just like the last speaker said, on social media and other, media, also creating public enlightenment using the print and the broadcast media, just to, reorientate the country, the citizens of the country into behaving properly during election.
What you just said now only underscores one other issue, that constitutionally, or rather legally enabled agencies of government that are supposed to give the necessary orientation are not doing what they're supposed to do. And that definitely, some would say, is a low. And we haven't been having that. We've been complaining about that for a very, very long time. In your opinion, what are the challenges that seem to be mitigating that?
I think also the challenges are that maybe the process of recruitment to the heads of these agencies are not professionally done. I remember in the days of MAMSA, Professor Jerry Gana was on top of his job in creating a lot of awareness when they were transitioning from military to civilian democracy. And he went through the whole country with his campaign, with MAMSA campaign. He did a tour of the country, and I think he was a square peg in a square hole in terms of heading that agency. Going further, any government should critically look at the National Orientation Agency as a very critical, player in creating this kind of awareness on changing the orientation of the citizens of Nigeria on good behavior, not just in election, but in many other things. We had the Y Brigade, the days of Buhari in his first military, shot at ruling this country. You know, they had phases. You have nationalism and patriotism. They had all other things, you know. And issues like people being on queue to get things done instead of just shunting and behaving anyhow. People were also taught how to, like, you know, manage themselves in public and so on. So in relation to election, you know, the National Election Agency need to be properly empowered, maybe, you know, with maybe proper legislation, if the enabling laws have some limitations in them exercising that aspect of their duty.
There's something you said now that struck me, and I remember it very, you know, with some pleasure. Even my colleague smiled when you mentioned MAMSA. But you know, you talked about the days of the war against indiscipline, and you talked about the fact that one of the major things that Y was supposed to do at the time was patriotism and all those things. Do you think the lack of that patriotic mentality or, you know, mindset of a patriot is lacking? Because there are those who would wonder, if we don't have that common ideology of patriotism, of Nigerianness, it will be everybody for himself.
Yes, the truth of the matter is if a patriotic Nigerian knows that he has just one vote, and that one vote he goes to exercise, and also he should, that spirit of patriotism should also lead the individual to accept the outcome of the election. And then even the key players in an electoral process, that the politicians themselves, they are the people that indirectly stimulate this violence, in the sense that what they say in public is different from what they say behind. Their body language, let me tell you something about followership. If you are following someone, and one things you watch very carefully is the body language of the person. A politician comes on air and talks against corruption, and backstage he's immersed in corruption. You that is following the person also does not say anything wrong. You know, the mentorship, you know, that you're supposed to get from a leader or somebody that is a politician, that is your candidate, who by all standards are supposed to live above board, is not there. You know, so the followers go behind to do something different from what these politicians, you know, portray in public. They will tell you, you know, they go behind and, you know, even in public, some of them don't, you know, shy away from the fact that they support violence. Very recently, you saw that, you know, a governor was said to be telling people that anybody who does not support him, you know, will have himself to blame, will join, you know, his ancestors in the grave, meaning that he is already empowering, you know, his followers to engage in violence. So in that case, how do you curb it? You have to start first with the actors, which is the politicians.
Talking about politicians, we just found, you go to our website, for instance, you see a story ascribed to the National Security Advisor issuing a warning to political parties and their supporters. And he was saying, strictly, he said, those people who have gangsters working for them, I want to send a very clear warning, a categorical, unequivocal warning to each and every one, regardless of whichever party, including the party of the president. He said, for as long as you decide to scuttle the electoral process, you will be visited with appropriate, commensurate response. I want to assure you, and I am saying this with all sincerity, how do you see this message being received by the major players that you talked about earlier?
See, one of the limitations of the rule of law is this immunity clause. A governor those who hold executive positions, especially from the governor and the president, have immunity. How do you reprimand somebody who has immunity? You can't prosecute the person. You can't even charge the person. You can't even, arrest the person. So the laws are there, no doubt. It has been there. We don't need the National Security Advisor to reiterate it. Everybody, any lawbreaker, especially the actors in politics, know the law. But because they hide under or enjoy this immunity, the law cannot take its course. The governor is the chief security officer of the state. And then he is the same person that is propagating and encouraging violence. And who asks him questions? Who questions him? You know, he cannot be even invited by these top security agencies for questioning or to write statements, if need be. So for me, yes, the National Security Advisor has, done his job well by telling everybody that there is zero tolerance. Even the president, in fairness to him, have recently, said that, he's going to be very apolitical in the next election. He said that recently in Britain, that Nigerians should vote, for any party of their choice. That is commendable. But on the other, if you look at it, that is the president talking. The other actors at the state level might not be on the same page with him. When they come and sit down in meetings, they agree in principle. But when you go back, they do something else. Yeah. Recently, Kogi State has been on the spotlight. In terms of violence, you see, tantrums being thrown here and there and so on. Concerning the next election. It's supposed to be a concern to these security agencies, and we shouldn't just fold our hands and allow it happen. It's supposed to be that now. I expect that, those areas that we're already seeing that, violence are erupting. For instance, we just made mention of Atiku's campaign, both in Kaduna and Borno, that witnessed some level of violence. Nobody is arrested officially. No report is written. It goes like that. So it encourages other people. Now, when they go to other states, other parties too, we say, okay, since party A is alleged to do this and they are not apprehended or reprimanded, and also they will engage in the same act whereby drawing us back and making the whole thing so look troublesome as it's appearing.
Mr. Jibrin, this is not the first time we're having political violence. We've had them before other elections. Do you think that the security agencies are doing enough to drill down that message that political violence or electoral violence will not be tolerated? Have enough perpetrators been arrested and arraigned so that an example is made to other supporters?
Well, I'll still go back to what I have been saying. I still blame, the actors. My colleague here just said something. Sometimes we find out that you are near to believe that some security agencies are complicit in this act. In the sense that recruitment to heads of these agencies are more political than professional. Where you come from, which part of the country you come from is a consideration. And the person comes there and want to do the bidding, of whoever appoints him. The police, by law, is empowered to, interface with civilians, not just by force, but also, creating, a friendly atmosphere for dialogue. I know that in engagements before election, there is a pally that the Commissioner of Police comes, everybody comes back, and then they try to advise and then place these laws before the contestants, and, you know, they agree in principle, you know. And then when you look at what is happening, sometimes, okay, for instance, in the last 2019 election, it is in common knowledge that helicopter came and was hovering over, you know, Kogi State, and then the helicopter had the inscription of the Nigerian police force on it, and they were shooting and you know, and releasing tear gases from you know, from the atmosphere into some areas, scaring voters. That allegation has come up severally, and nobody has been able to, like, you know, the police have not come to deny it, and nobody has been apprehended for it. Why it happened? So we are forced as citizens to look at the law enforcement agents as not doing what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to be completely apolitical. They are supposed to be very professional in the discharge of their duties. That we are not getting most times.
It's very interesting that you raise that issue that way. But, you know, so if we're to ask you for a solution or a way forward, a step that needs to be taken now, given all the issues that we've talked about, INEC has a voter education, you know, responsibility. Political parties have voter education responsibilities, and the entire electoral process seems to be in the hands of all Nigerians at the same time. What would be your recommendation, especially now that in all of this melee we have a situation where INEC offices are being attacked, vandalized, destroyed? Do you think we have a bullet, a silver bullet, a one solution thing that can deter the level of electoral violence, the shades, various shades of electoral violence that we have on our hands?
Well, what I see is there should be some form of enforcement of this law. Anybody, you should have scapegoats, people who go in for it, either they are convicted by law, or, you know, other forms of measure, other fines or something like that are put in place and enforced. Of course, the laws are there, but the enforcement is zero. The reason people get away with a lot of impunity in, you know, during election, and that, you know, it encourages every other person to participate in it. You know, now that the president has come out boldly to say he's going to be apolitical, he's going to be, you know, neutral, he has also charged the security agencies the same. We should also go, you know, it should go beyond just mere rhetorics into action. We want to see that agency is fired for, you know, negligence of duty or something like that. We want to see those things coming up. And on the other hand, the politicians as well should be committed to, you know, they should drop this desperation. Election is the only means that power is acquired. And so, because, you know, of the high level of desperation, they go to other means of achieving this. Thank God the electoral process, you know, is getting better by the introduction of beavers and other measures to curb, you know, malpractice and fraud. But beyond that, you know, the politicians have so much to do. They should be committed to their promises. We see them signing peace accord. You know, if you sign peace accord, you also have a duty to go back to your supporters to educate them. I want to tell you that there are governors, you know, who have ruled this country that we know that we're not, you know, prone to violence. Okay. In Kogi State, where I come from, for instance, in the 2015 election, gubernatorial election, did not register any death because the governor in place then was, you know, explicitly told everybody that he was not committed. He's not a do or die affair. You know, he lost actually, but the fact of the matter is that no life was lost. Okay. So the politicians have something to do. They have much to do in enforcing that these the laws are, are adhered to,
Thank
and
you
then
very
also
much.
that this violence, is brought to a halt.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jonathan Jubril, a public affairs analyst who joined us from our studio in Abuja. I'd also like to thank Mr. Kingsley Uzoma, a security analyst who also joined us from our studios in Abuja. When we return, we shall bring in a security professional for his opinion of all of this. See you shortly. Welcome back. Now we have with us Professor Ibrahim Ado Abubakar, who's a security professional. He's also joining us from our studio in Abuja. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning,
Good.
everybody.
So, campaigns have only just started. We still have approximately 104 days to the general elections, and we're seeing pockets of violence already. I mean, what does this portray to you?
It portrays a lot to me because this has to do with a lot of losses of life and extending to properties, which are primary duties of the police. It's also disheartening that at this point in time, after 62 years of independence, we are still facing this kind of crisis. But then, speaking of, I would say that it is because we have not been able to build a security template, and that is so disturbing.
But then, when you say we haven't built a security
it's disturbing
template,
in the sense that...
just a second. When you say we haven't built a security template, exactly what do you mean by that? Because there are those who would say, hey, we have security architecture. We have a security policy that is supposed to be more citizen-centric than state-centric. So when you talk about security template, is that a missing gap for you?
What I'm saying, when I say security template, you must have a template before you have an architecture. Because what people are saying in security today, mostly in Nigeria, in Africa, is always saying they have a security architecture. How can you have a security architecture when you don't have a template? It's just like somebody who has no land and he said he wants to have a building. So if we go further, because we have an issue to talk about electoral security, which is just a section of political security. So how many departments of the security agencies we have in Nigeria or African that are trained on political security?
Professor?
This is the problem.
Professor, do you think that the political parties are doing enough to educate their supporters, or are they leaving it all to INEC, which is why we are seeing this level of violence so early in the process?
I will say it frankly. I will say it frankly that to me, we don't have a political parties. We have political platforms. Political parties are where I am contributing. Everybody is contributing into a party. But here we have a political platform where anybody can come in and use to climb to power. So we don't have a political party. Because if you ask all the members of the parties, what is their contribution to the party, they don't have any contribution, financially or otherwise. So it's the candidate. It's all about the candidate.
What kind of contributions are the supporters supposed to make to the party so that they belong?
Yeah, the supporters are linked to, not linked to the party. The supporters are linked to the candidate. So
True.
when I invest my 1 billion naira, I want my 1 billion naira to come back. Whatever way
with
it
interest.
comes back is nobody's business.
To come back with
not
interest.
It's me.
Professor, you want your 1 billion to come back with interest.
That is very good. You are correct. So we have a political platform, not a political party.
So the political platforms are not doing what political parties should do. Is that your point?
A political party is what I and you and everybody comes in together and form, and we have our contribution. If our contribution at the end of the month is 100 naira, everybody is contributing 100 naira. At the end of the day, we pick our candidates from whatever level we want to pick them, from the ward to the local government to the state and to the federal. But in a situation where I have to finance myself or I have friends putting in everything to finance me, then it's a political platform. And that is where you can see people cross-carpeting every day. Today I'm in this party, the next day I'm in the other party, because I know I want something from them.
Professor, what you're saying, therefore, is that as long as we do not have political parties, we will continue to see this kind of things happening.
Yeah, as far as we don't have a political parties and we still have a platform, we are still using a platform, then we should also experience this kind of challenges. But then again, we may not experience this kind of challenges if we have a session of the security agencies that are already trained on political security.
Well, Prof, there's something that you said recently, and it would seem like when we talk about security, when we talk about electoral violence, we're only talking about security for just the elections, but there is always a build-up. Recently, you gave a lecture where you said Nigeria can generate over $50 trillion annually from security, where you were giving a lecture on managing security and security challenges during the forthcoming general election in Nigeria. Now, it sounds like you're saying, okay, we have a lot of things to consider, not just about one election, but a developmental approach to it. But then, going from that which you said at an event, one is wondering if that information you gave was lost on the authorities. Because if we had security before the elections, we wouldn't have so much worries for election violence or electoral violence as we build up to the elections.
You are right. In my lecture, in my presentation on that in the National Assembly, I said Nigeria can generate not $50 trillion, but 50 trillion naira.
Okay.
Not dollars.
Okay, go ahead.
And if you go into details from my study, I said we can generate that if we have adequate security for the next and engineering for the next 2 years. And I said in the next 10 years, Nigeria can generate 150 trillion naira from security alone in Nigeria. I made that projection. I make a breakdown how it goes and how we can generate these funds. So I told them that security alone can generate 100 times more than what oil and gas can generate for us through security economy. Because the template of security goes with human right and citizen security, business and economic security, political security, crime and environmental security, industrial security, productive security. Before we get to industrial security, before we get to protective security. But in Nigeria, the colonial master trained us on protective security. What are you protecting? Do you protect what you don't know? I am in the studio here in Channels now, and the security men are just at the gate and the doorpost. If something is missing here, they still get them apprehended. And what are you apprehending them for? Because they did not take any stock of what is here. So also so many houses and so many business premises in Nigeria. So that is the problem. We can generate 50 to 150 trillion naira from security alone, if we are serious.
But the point that you are raising, by the way, of course, you know that that's not going to happen in channels, because just the moment you step out, there's a security man right there at the reception. But, you know, the point that you're making, I quite understand. The point now is, if this information that you're giving, and I'm asking, is it lost on the authorities? Isn't this something that government at the highest level should integrate into our, well, you call it template? If we have to, let me even ask that, if we have to come up with a security template, what do we need to do? So we don't have to talk about electoral violence every 4 years.
And what should this template contain?
Well, very good. Today, nobody, because we don't have a session taking charge of political security, what are we supposed to do? Who monitor the electorate? Who monitor the candidates? Who monitor the parties? Who knows their expenditures? Who audits these parties? Who audits the candidates? Who are placed on surveillance? What are our surveillance dimensions? What is the engineering and re-engineering of the political processes? These are templates we must have to follow if we want to be sincere to ourselves. And that will curb all this political violence.
Well, Prof, I also heard something very...
And the electoral violence.
Yes, I heard something very interesting, and I'm still a little befuddled about it. There are those who have said, you know, there are some security agencies or personnel are watching the president's body language before they can maybe apprehend some people or do some things, watching body language. I'm trying to understand what you make of that. My layman or naive position is there are laws. The laws are very clear on what crime is or what offenses are, and you violate the law, you get picked up. It's just as simple. But so I'm not just talking about the electoral violence. I'm talking about laws generally. Security agencies ought to just necessarily do the things they need to do without being prodded. So when you hear body language, what do you understand by that? But what do you think they're talking about?
When you talk about body language, the president's body language, then you are actually not a security professional. I have been advocating for security laws. Security laws are not our constitution or the evidence law or criminal laws. The security laws differ from the constitution, the penal code or criminal code or whatever, or the constitution. If you don't have a security law, then some of the agencies will not be able to do what they are supposed to do, because security law also cover defense, military, and other organs of security and the people. You find out that when you are building a police network, what are the policing network? The policing network says neighborhood policing, which has to start with grassroots policing, neighborhood policing, community policing, state policing, national policing, global policing, before we talk of policing the police. In this session, who is policing the police? Because we did not take grassroots policing into consideration. We did not take neighborhood policing into consideration. We jumped to community policing. How can you not go to a primary school, you did not attend a secondary school, you are now in the university? It is very difficult. And that is why policing has become cumbersome. It has become more expensive than what it's supposed to be. If you drive down to any police station, you ask of anybody, even very close to the police station, they don't know. They don't know. Because they don't know what is grassroots policing. They don't know what is neighborhood policing. They just jump to community policing. And that is serious.
Well, just there's this other question, concerning the elections. There is this body that I think INEC came up with called Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. I would assume that election security begins from the very moment INEC released the election timetable. What would you say? And they're supposed to be made up of various security agencies across board. What, in your opinion, should they be doing now? Do you think they have enough capacity to stem the tide of electoral violence as we build up to 2023?
For now, I would say no. They don't have the capacity because they are not trained. They are not educated on political security and electoral security. Electoral security is just like a subsector of political security. So when you want to do, what we are doing now is the campaign has taken off, everything has taken off. What we just have to do is form a unit that can go into monitoring and surveillance political system on the security radar. I think that is just what we can do for now. And the time is short, but it is not too late. The police, the secret police agencies, which is the SSS, and maybe the Nigerian civils defense and civil defense can also come in, has a training session, look at how they can monitor and place surveillance on the security system for now, the electoral security system for now. With that kind of training, they will be able to come out with modalities to sort out that electoral violence for now. It is not too late. It could just be a crash program because we Nigerians believe in crash program. Maybe 2-3 weeks training to bring them, mold them, bring them into what is attainable and what is not attainable. Because monitoring system could actually cope the violence for now. Okay. It will not be 100% okay, but if we can get it 50 to 70%, at the next time we have been able to build a unit that will be able to sort out our problem.
Yes, we hear you, Professor Ibrahim Ado Abubakar.
We can get it right immediately.
It's better late than never. Thank you very much, Professor Ibrahim Ado Abubakar, security professional. Thank you for shedding more light on this matter for us and helping us look for solutions as well. Thank you very much. Sunrise will return.
Thank you very much, and you're welcome.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.
Well, it seems that song just aptly introduced this segment. The guy just said, I'm leaving home. And I think he went to South Africa in that video, because that music is definitely from that part. So talking tourism further to our partnership to champion and wake up the tourism ecosystem in Nigeria, tourism and culture. Now, exactly what do you export when you talk tourism? It's culture, right?
Yeah, well.
What you have.
Yes.
And a number of other things like that.
All kinds of other things that we were saying before you introduced the segment. Mm-hmm. What we wear, what we eat, how we behave, how we dance. It's all part of it. And
it seems the world has become smaller now with the internet and everything like it.
This has made it very small.
You just have to show off your phone.
This has made it very small.
But let's have a conversation this morning around tourism and the forthcoming UNWTO conference for November 14 and 16 of this year. Elsia Grandcourt joins us this morning. She's Director, Africa Region for UNWTO. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
As well as Kojo Bentham Williams, Communications Director for UNWTO. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Well, the T-shirt he's wearing says, "If lost, return to Botswana." Please return him to the Nigerian embassy in Botswana.
If lost, the T-shirt or the man wearing the T-shirt?
Let's begin with you, Elsia. So, first of all, perhaps a good place to start would be an understanding of what tourism is for many. You know, because when you hear tourism, Kojo might be able to confirm that most people don't even understand. I mean, in parts of Africa, a sizable number don't understand the concept of tourism. There are those who don't even want to go and leave. They enjoy working. How can I just go and make some money and then go waste it somewhere when I can just keep the money? So tell us, help people understand the concept of tourism so that we can be able to milk the potential and the resources therefrom.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us on this show. First of all, allow me to say that the World Tourism Organization, with a specialized agency of the United Nations, and our business is to promote a sustainable tourism that anchors on the three pillars of sustainability. When I say the three pillars, we're talking about the economic pillar, the environmental pillar, as well as the social aspect of it. And we need to ensure that the sector is developed sustainably so that everybody benefits from it, so that when we talk about the trickle-down effect, to go down to the communities, and as you rightly said, when people travel, what are you looking for? You are looking for the experience. You are looking forward to understand the dynamics on the ground. You are looking forward to meet the people, to taste the food, to enjoy all that is around there. But at the same time, we must ensure that everything that is developed in a way that is sustainable, that is able to last for the future, and that we have to take stock that where there are different pressures that are being put on the economic of a country, we take stock, we do some studies if there is need to be able to really ensure that it is developed in a sustainable fashion, in a sustainable manner, and that everybody benefits from it.
And Kojo,
yes.
I suppose it's the same in much of Africa. The countries are facing all kinds of challenges. So how do you think they're going to receive this news about Africa being the world's next tourism destination? And how do you expect them to react to this?
Again, thank you again, and always good to be back in Nigeria. Fortunately, I'm not lost, so I'm here. No, I think that, like Elsia, said, tourism, perhaps we could say, in in the larger context of tourism, people say, okay, this is something that they're not doing. But if you look at all our aspects of lives, we're practicing tourism one way or the other, and because it's the way of the people. All right. Now, the reason why Africa is seen as a continent of tomorrow is the fact that it's the only region that, when it comes to what we showcase and promote, it's authentic, it's diverse, and then it's, like we say, Africa is not a country. So all the 54 countries that you have, it gives you something to come back to the continent. I mean, here we are in Nigeria, and, of course, we're going to talk about the creative sector, at the same time, the food, the fashion, etc. So, as
similar
Africans,
and yet so different, one
exactly.
from the other.
Yes, so different. And I mean, there's similarities of our food, I mean, the way we do things. That's why we are Africa. But it gives you something very unique, authentic. You can get anywhere. That's why we believe that it's a continent that when we take tourism as a sector, as a leading sector, it has the potential to help grow our economies, because we do often say that it's only tourism that the ordinary person on the street, in the village, can see what we call the forex or the foreign dollar, because often they're not said in the news that, okay, we got this amount, but they're able to experience that. So Africa is buoyed to see what you call it, like I want to put in the word, tourism growth, and the fact that we have things that are unique and diverse.
Let me ask you, Elsia, we'll come to the conference, we'll certainly, but the potential, speak to us about the potential of Africa's tourism. Because, I mean, you've talked about, a number of things before about this, and could you also just mention some, but speak to us about the tourism potential that Africa has in terms of economic benefits, in terms of potential for job creation, in terms of waking up the sleepy tourism sites in various parts of Africa.
When you talk about the potential of tourism, we have everything there on the continent in Africa for that. And you know that over the years, a lot of countries on the continent are looking towards this sector because they are realizing, especially after COVID, a lot of countries have taken stock and realized the true value that the tourism sector brings to countries' economies. Because when travel literally stopped, we saw that businesses that didn't associate themselves directly to tourism also was halted, was affected. And the reflection was being done because oftentimes we don't link the activities that we do to the core of tourism business. But we say that tourism is a transversal sector. We see ourselves in everything. We have the 17 SDGs. We have 3 primary SDGs where we are explicitly mentioned. But we feel that we are in all the 17 SDGs because when you talk agriculture, tourism is there. When you talk health, medical, tourism is there. When you talk sports, tourism is there. So there is that potential, and I think more and more countries are taking stock. Probably in the past, we've pushed more towards those industries where we have the quick wins. But with tourism, we need to invest in it. We need to invest in the infrastructure that comes with it. And today on the African continent, there are countries that have tourism as the mainstay of the economy. But there are the others now, like I mentioned, have realized the true potential that it can bring to the economy and to the benefit of the communities. And that is why they are looking to mainstream tourism more in the national agendas. And of course, we're endowed with a lot of potential. From beach tourism to safari to mountain tourism, it's all there. It's all there in the continent. But we just need to better market it, better promote it outside of the country, but also between ourselves, Africans, because there is the potential in domestic tourism as well as intra-regional travel within the continent.
You just answered the question I asked you earlier about how we bring it home. But one other thing that, you talked about the national governments playing a significant role. Could it be a fact that the whole conversation around tourism is over-centralized in the national governments as opposed to drilling down to the subnationals of the various countries?
I believe that the government has the critical role of putting the right policy framework to ensure that there is the direction to move. But the main driver of the tourism sector is the private sector. And that is why, as I said also yesterday in one of your interviews, the dialogue between the private and the public must be there in order to be able to move the sector forward, so that then the entire community will benefit from it. So the role of government is critical, but we need to bring together the key partners, the key stakeholders, which are the private sector themselves, to be able to drive the business forward.
Now, Kojo, the UNWTO has chosen to have this conference in Nigeria. Of course, I don't suppose the UN is oblivious of the problems that Nigeria is facing, especially in the area of security. I want to ask you, why did the UN decide to hold this conference in Nigeria at this time?
Okay, thank you again. But you know, if you look at how this event started, I think at our 24th General Assembly, and the Honorable Minister for Information and Culture, Honorable Lai Mohammed, and our Secretary General Zurab Politikashvili, during that panel discussion on tourism, agro-tourism, and the creative things, it came out as Nigeria being the destination that can, I mean, rightly so, the topic that we're looking at was best fit to host this event. And talk about security, we all have our challenges, but at the same time, it doesn't stop us from going ahead with things that we believe can also help change perceptions of destinations. Because of it, we over-concentrate on things like...
On the challenges.
Yes, but there are also opportunities in that. So, thinking about the fact that Lagos, the creative sector, and here as itself is one of the places, the heartbeat of the creative industries. And it's also the first event linking these three, because tourism, culture, creative arts. Now, I'd like to also point out that sometimes we say tourism in its big word as tourism. But if you go down to the villages and all the things that we do, as we know, culture, tourism is a way of life. I mean, culture is a way of life, and culture is a key thing. We've not been able to bring them together, for us to optimize its full potential. So the people in Abeokuta doing Adere and all of that, imagine the value of you coming there, and by the time I leave here, perhaps again I'm not lost, but I'm able to have something that shows that you are, not just a souvenir, but them understanding that people are coming, and so when we are able to help them understand the value of a traveler, or even within our own, regions, it helps them to not just scale up their work, but appreciate, tourism between not just Africans or the world, but even, amongst themselves. So on the issue of security, I don't think it's that bad, or we are a bit putting too much emphasis on it, as opposed to we knowing that when you are in Nigeria, when you are in Lagos, there's the home of Afrobeat, the home of things that you can be able to show. It's something that we've not actually promoted enough. So coming here gives us opportunities. The first event that the UNWTO is having with these three sectors, and Nigeria being a leader, it helps Africa to also put its case forward.
Quickly, mention those three sectors.
Yes.
You said this tourism is about three sectors. Music, right?
Tourism, culture.
Tourism,
yes.
culture, and creativity.
Yes.
Tourism, culture, and creativity.
Yes.
We have Nollywood.
That's a creative, creative one there. But we'll come to that. I mean, because I want to know which music you dance to more.
Yes, okay.
But let me ask you before infrastructure for tourism.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I like that we're talking about this ahead of the conference, so that people will be aware of it. What are the things that need to be done now, so that after the conference, the benefits are sustained? The infrastructure that needs to go with the conference, so that it's not just information being thrown out, but it's information also that people can own after the conference is over, because I believe that's the objective, right? So what are those things that need to be done, put out by who, in order to ensure that the benefits, the effect, thank you, of the conference, the objectives of the conference are sustained?
Okay, so first of all, again, having the event here itself is a landmark and it's a legacy event. You know, I mean, taking it from the context of being the first event and being held in Nigeria helps to make the case for what Nigeria and Africa is. Second of all, again, is the fact that we are putting some information out and to be able to educate people about it. Because sometimes they say advocacy is part of letting people understand. Because if you don't know the problem or if you don't know the information, sometimes you lose out. So this event itself, yes, you're going to have it, but equally at the same time, we realize that tourism all over the world, suffers from budgetary allocations globally. Now, something that is not good for citizens cannot be good for foreigners.
Yeah.
So the infrastructure that we have now, we use that, and again, we're looking at the hardcore infrastructure. But we have things that they are quick wins, like Elsia said. So once we are coming here, we are going to the market. Okay, we are going to places that we can be able to experience, the culture of Nigeria, and then the content of what will be discussed, perhaps necessarily might not just be the infrastructure, the brick and mortar thing,
the soft
but the education, the soft power, that we're able to understand that people are building synergies, there are networking opportunities, and perhaps sometimes people are not coming out to say, during this conference we're able to scale up to see how we can have a partnership with somebody from South Africa or from Ghana or from Europe, etc. So it's part of our mandate to be able to educate them and understand that, yes, you are in the creative sector or you are in culture and all of that, but what can we do to be able to even make sure that people who experience this, it is seamless, and at the same time we can be able to scale up with partnerships. So I often see that, and that's why when we had this events, bringing these three subsectors together, it allows all of us to interact, to maximize the potential of us. Because people don't see even music as tourism. But imagine music without tourism. I mean, because we call music as a gastronomy of tourism. If you don't have music, if you don't have all of that.
I learned that word.
Yeah.
I thought gastronomy was a medical language until Elsia mentioned it yesterday in a conversation. So you spoke so excitedly about it yesterday. I thought definitely she's looking forward to eating amala. Have you had any Nigerian food lately?
Well, I have had so many things since I came here.
Okay.
But you have to forgive me if I don't retain the name. What is more important is the taste, the flavor, and that you enjoyed it. But what I can retain, what I tell you I retain, is that it's spicy. Where I come from, we eat hot. We eat spicy. But here, it's another spicy.
Oh, God.
The kind of spicy.
Another level of spicy.
The kind of spicy that give you red eyes, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
So what are some of those other things? I mean, you've talked about gastronomy. You may want to speak a little more on that because some people may have missed what you said yesterday. But what are the other things to expect at this conference? What are the things that are going to be contained in the conversations that this conference is going to raise?
I think also to complement what Kojo shared is also to highlight that we're not just doing a conference to bring people around the table to discuss about these thematics, but we're also doing some targeted workshops, training, capacity building to the local stakeholders in regards to these two topics, culture and creative industries. So we have some experts that will be conducting these workshops, whereby they will be really drilling down into how best to make of what the locals, the SMEs, they are already now doing. It's not that they're not doing right their business, but having that opportunity to share and exchange and even hear the testimonies of other countries is also going to be an interesting aspect of it. And within the symposium, we also have several different master classes that will touch on different touch points. Today, we know that the digital world is the new norm. So we have to look also at the new tendencies. So all this will be part of the discussions that are there. And on the second day, then we will have the panel sessions where we will hear from both public and private sector stakeholders about this topic of culture and creative industries. But beyond just doing these dialogues and exchanging, we will also have an exhibition area where you will have different countries showcasing the flavors that they bring to the table, as well as then we will also have the social aspect of it, because as Kojo said, if you're doing these events and you don't have that, we have to live it at the same time. But it helps also to allow people to network and to look at what others are doing. And as you mentioned earlier, the continent itself, we've got so much to offer that sometimes even ourselves, we are not too aware of what there is. So having this opportunity to have this chance to exchange with each other, it will also give the appropriate framework.
Especially, I mean, when you have something and it's so commonplace, you don't even know it's anything significant. You mentioned the intangible heritage sites as well. Can you speak to us about that and how that plays out at this conference?
Well, since one of the topic is relating to culture, you know, we have the cultural heritage, the sites, but also we talk about the intangible heritage. When we talk about couscous, for example, which is part of the gastronomy, it's only recently UNESCO inscribed this as an intangible heritage that is mostly common in the cuisine of North Africa, for example. My country only recently, and I can very proudly say that our music, which is the mutia, you just asked what do I dance to, has been inscribed as an intangible heritage.
What country is this, please?
That's Seychelles. We dance the mutia, and that also has been recognized as an intangible heritage. And there are so much more. The rumba, for example, from the Congo. But beyond just the intangibles, you have the tourism sites themselves. So it's a little bit more of that we'll be bringing together, talking about it and putting to the fore. Because as I mentioned earlier, oftentimes there is a perception about the continent itself, because we are 54 countries, like as Kojo mentioned, and we all have our different assets, our different unique selling points, but generally when you look at it, we complement each other as well.
Well, Alcia, I want to make a point that Africans don't really know Africa. Because it is ours, we seem to take it for granted.
Yes.
Even Nigerians don't know Nigeria. We mentioned a few sites when we were introducing this program this morning. I'm sure some of those sites were strange to some Nigerians who were watching. And
the people who live in those areas are like, is it not just that place?
Yankari Reserve, is that what they're shouting about on television? It's right next door, you know? So Nigerians in particular, because I know that for a fact, they don't have the curiosity, let me use that word, to know what is in their country. And I wonder why. Because of youth service, which was introduced some, 50 years ago, some of us have got to see the sites, not because we wanted to, but because we were forced to travel around Nigeria and serve our nation during the course of 1 year. But otherwise, Nigerians don't feel the urge to go see sites in Nigeria. They'd rather get on a plane and go to London and go and see the Big Ben and go and see London Bridge. What kind of challenge does this present to the WTO?
You are so right when you say that we all take for granted what we have, but we start missing it when we are away from home. I am sure when the Nigerian is away, that's when he's looking for the jollof rice, right?
Of course. And agege bread.
Exactly. So to your point, it's true that we take for granted what we have, but there are several reasons also why the own nationals of the countries are not visiting their own if
Science.
not, like you say, from the school days, it's because we've not seen it important to promote it. There is a saying that says charity begins at home, right? So we need to, I don't want to use the word educate, but we need to sensitize our own people first. Because if it's fit for us, then the tourists will come and they will enjoy it as well, right? So I think, again, I go back to the pandemic that we've just been through. We realize the importance of looking inside, because the inflow from out had stopped. And so we were looking about how to make do with, encouraging people to travel. And you mentioned, what are the challenges? The challenges are many, because first of all, if you look at the price point, it's sometimes even more economically viable for you to go outside than inside the country. So there is some work that needs to be done by the authorities in regards to the price. The offer, because what you would look for as a national in your country would be different to what the tourist would like to come and experience. So there is work to be done at the national level by the different countries, but I think more and more the different stakeholders that are there, they're realizing the importance, because people would be willing to spend on a long weekend to just go outside of the city and relax with the family and then come back. So this is also will help to drive the business, will help the people to discover what they have inside the country. So for us, these are the areas that we work with the countries to ensure that when we are looking to promote the country to the outside, we are also looking at how best to preserve what we have, but also encourage our people, because then we become the custodians. We will defend, we will protect, and we will help to sell, to promote what we have to the people. You will not just wait for the authorities to come and sell what you have in your country, because you yourself, you want to be that ambassador that is promoting Nigerian culture, Nigerian creative industry, by wearing your own local fashion, by promoting. So I would say something that we have to feel that it's our business. Tourism is everybody's business, and it's a people's industry. It's, if we don't take it on ourselves to see the value of putting forward our own, then these are the different areas that we should look at. And I think to the point that even recently, our Secretary General on a visit was saying that it's important for us to ensure that tourism itself should be already be taught in the schools, so that we create the awareness from very early and then onwards into the industry, because it is everybody's business at the end of the day.
Kojo, so here we are. This is going to happen on the 14th and 16th?
Yes, 14th through to 16th.
14th to 16th, so it's a 3-day event.
Yes.
And it's happening at
the National Theatre.
National Arts Theatre in Ikomo. Are there going to be breakout sessions?
Yes, like Elsa mentioned. So on the first day, there will be a symposium, and concurrently you will have masterclass sessions. So one that looks at culture, because the general theme of that is to be able to chart a pathway that allows these three sectors to work better, to not just scale up, but for the growth of their respective countries. So there are sessions geared towards that. There'll be 2 sessions happening on Monday, on the 14th, and then there'll be symposium. At the same time, the Minister and the Secretary General will have opportunity to engage with young ones, as education is being a core part of what UNWTO is doing. So this is how the first day is going to pan out. And then the second day, we have the opening ceremony, and then we'll have the panel discussion where we'll have experts take us through how even sometimes things like intellectual property, which is part of the creative ecosystem, but sometimes people don't understand how it is. So we bring in experts for them to help us unpack the value and what we are trying to put across, even sometimes how to be able to put up your service out there. So this is what happened. Then we have the social event with the time with Nollywood, as well on the last day. So you can't come to Nigeria and not experience this, fascinating and intriguing, because there's always a curiosity element of Africa, pretty much so in Nigeria, about not just the music, but the way of life.
Okay, music and movies. That's pretty much, well, and comedy, because it would seem like the creative industry, has gotten larger over the past few years with comedy in it. How significant is that for this conference? I understand it's the third leg of the entire conference, right? How significant is the creative industry in Nigeria in particular for this conference?
I think, as Kojo mentioned earlier, tourism itself is a sector that leads to the creation of jobs. And from what I understand, for Nigeria, the creative industry is the second largest that is contributing to the economy. So it is a very important sector for the country itself, but also for the continent, and I think we can also say internationally and globally, because it has been in 2021 declared that the focus now will be on the creative industries, also in order to help to recover from the pandemic. And I believe that creative industries has a specific role to play, and it will definitely help to propel the tourism sector, because as we were saying, in tourism we are in all the different facets: culture, creative, agriculture, medical, etc. So I think also coming here at this point is very timely. And as he also mentioned, being in Lagos, where we know this is where there is the pulse, the buzz, Nollywood, etc. It's very fitting for us to be here for this event and discuss this topic.
So what are there other things that we haven't asked you that you want to mention on this? Because I know that, of course, naturally there is an agenda. How many countries, for instance, are featuring in this conference?
Okay, when we put out the invitation, it was not just to our own African members, but globally, since it is a global event. So we've put the invitation out to the world, if you want to put it this way. And to date, as we closed our registration, we were hitting already 500 delegates who had already registered, but that's including the local. So we would expect maybe around 20 odd countries that will participate and attend, and some ministers also from the region and other high-level delegates representing their countries. But also we've worked with the embassies that are based also in Nigeria, representing the countries, in order to be able to show these different facets of the three industries: tourism, culture, and creative industries at the event. So it will be a very eventful event. Full of activities, and
Are these other 20 countries bringing their food?
That's what we also worked on, to be able to see the different facets, the different flavors and facets, not just food, but also the music.
Dance.
Exactly. So in the social activities around the event, we will have the opportunity for them to showcase them.
Some musha, right?
I'm not too sure about musha yet, but we will definitely be having some rumba.
Okay. So I'm just trying to imagine, Kojo, fusing mucha with rumba and Afrobeat. Don't even answer that question. We have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation this morning. And we look forward to it. So for those who are not registered yet, how do they register?
Or is it too late?
Well, normally we have to cut off at one place, because we have to work with some numbers. And of course there will be some controls in order to be able to manage the group of people that we are working with.
So it's not just for everybody to just come?
Well, we issued the invitations, as I said.
Okay. So there's no registration anywhere for anything?
We will have the registration on the spot at the event. In fact, we opened this event on the Sunday before, and then on the day itself. So there will be the controls that are set in place there in order to be able to access the different activities.
Are there any events that are open to the public, who can just show up without having registered like last week or something?
I think, like Elsa said, obviously, if you want to be open to, the public also, it ought to be some numbers that you're dealing with. Yes, but I think what I can say with delegates coming to Nigeria, they would have the chance to experience it itself. Personally, from today, I'll be going to the shrine to immerse and understand what fella means, really in its hardcore sense. So there's a lot that people will take, and let me use the opportunity to also thank Channels as a partner to UNWTO, and you've been very supportive of our event.
It's not like we have a choice.
Yeah,
to do it. Okay, but Elsa, have you had suya? No?
Yes.
Yes, I did. I had the beef suya.
Yes.
Yes. And the nyam, yes. But the beef suya, we had it the first night we arrived.
Yes.
Do you think it's ready for exports? Don't answer that question. Elsa Grandcourt, Director, Africa Region of UNWTO, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, sir.
As well as Kojo Bentham Williams, Lost But Found Communications Director of UNWTO. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
If you get lost, don't worry, you're not lost. And that's our conversation on tourism. We'll be right back for that, which I mentioned earlier. You'll find out after this break. Stay with us.
Very interesting indeed. And that is the basis for this segment, which is tagged African Tale of Christmas. Wow. Well, I saw some Africa there. And I suppose that is why this is tagged an African tale. Of not a Nigerian tale, an African tale of Christmas. And it speaks to what is going to happen at Eco Hotel in the coming weeks, to herald Christmas. Well, let me not talk too much about it because we have knowledgeable people in the studio with us. We have the Assistant Brand Manager, Mr. Henry Freeman Ogenovo.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. And we have the Assistant Marketing Manager, Ibidolapo Oyeshino.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming. Now, that visual that we saw, I find very, very interesting and colorful.
Exactly.
Tell us about it.
An African Tale of Christmas. Before I start, really, what an apt time, a timely period to actually talk about tourism in the discussion you just had before this. Before this discussion.
Yes,
well, I never knew it was going to be like that.
Why was not surprised how to latch on to that?
Yeah. It's so timely. For the past 4 or 5 years, Eco Hotel has invested so much into tourism in this country. You wouldn't believe it's over ₦1 billion that Eco Hotel has actually invested in doing this. 4 or 5 years now, we've been curating content internally. COVID came, and of course, we had to look inwards, and it is even at that point we got stronger. And listening to that interview you just had before this particular discussion really elated us. Because An African Tale of Christmas, we are bringing a different dimension to the entire Christmas story. We want to tell it the African way. We want to bring Santa. Usually Santa will come from the North Pole.
Indeed.
And he will do all he wants to do.
And he will bring his reindeer and his sled.
Exactly. But this time around, Santa is coming as a guest. We want to coronate Santa. We want to tell Santa how Christmas is being celebrated in Africa. It's a whole long thing, as they would say, because it will happen from the 22nd of December all through to 27th for those that were doing the Christmas vacation thing. And of course, if you want to do the long stay, from that same 22nd all through to the 2nd of January.
So you want to educate Santa Claus about Christmas?
We want to tell him how we celebrate Christmas in Africa. Not that we want to
Since we don't have snow, and we don't have sled, and we don't have reindeer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because this is actually tropical Christmas.
It's okay.
Okay. Dolapo, I hear that the highlights are going to include Hakuna Matata theme park, African jungle, and stuff like that. Please, my imagination is running wild already.
Okay.
Help me fill in the dots.
Okay. So,
or should I join the dots?
Okay. I will quickly like to give a background story so you understand why this inspiration came forth. So we started Christmas at Eco Hotels, tropical Christmas at Eco Hotels, about 4 years ago. The first theme was Tropical Christmas Wonderland. The second one was Carnival. Then the third one was Candyland. And you can imagine that all of these were inspired by the Western culture. So this year, last year, when we were about to check out, so we saw this little girl, and I can imagine what must have been going through her mind. Maybe she's well-traveled, she had been to different places, and she has seen, how things are done in the Western countries, and she really wanted something different. And she said, and we asked her, and we said, what would you like to see? What do you want us to do better? And she said, please, I would like to see something African. So I can really imagine what went through her mind. This girl would just be about 7, and really we do not tell that story like, it should. Like you said in the previous interview, it's the time for us to tell our own story. Now the highlights, we have the Hakuna Matata Park. It's a 20,000 square meter on Eco Atlantic space, and we have different things that you can imagine for children, families. We have the big bounce house, we have carousels, we have the wet zone, we have the dry zone, just for people to have fun. And if you're on this package, it gives you an all access, and that is also inclusive of that. So we have also the African Junction, where different people around Africa come there to sell their things, like what I'm wearing. You can see someone selling Ankara, you can see someone selling, the beaded chains, you can see someone selling, the big round jewelries, those beautiful African jewelry. So it's just that space where you have that. And we also have the spectacular show. So you can imagine a Broadway style theater where you have people, telling our story, that Tales by Moonlight that we've forgotten, reminding children about that, even reminding adults about that, and so much more, so much more.
Why do I sense some Wakanda in what you're saying? Mr. Ogonewo, so I know that our time is limited, but I'd like to ask you, she talked about package. It's sounding like it has to be subscribed for somehow?
Exactly, you're very correct. It is no arrogance, really. Eco Hotel actually leading the forefront of this tourism, especially in the hospitality industry in Nigeria. We have the packages are like segmented. We have the first one, which is from the 22nd to 27th, which is basically Christmas theme. We have the next one, which is from 29th to the 4th, to the 2nd of January. And we have the long one, which is 22nd to December to 2nd of January. This one I just mentioned to you now, it starts, the prices actually varies because we have 4 different buildings in Eco Hotel. Now, these 4 different buildings are like the 5-star rated building, which is the 5-star hotel, and that is our luxury brand, by the way, the Eco Signature. That one is followed by the 4-star rated building, which is the Eco Suites. The next one is the Eco Main building. That is the one people actually know as Eco Hotels. And the last one is the Eco Gardens. Now, all these four...
Which one? What do you call Kuramo now?
Now, the one you mentioned, Kurama, now, is the one that is called Eco Gardens.
That's the lowest of them all.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
That is Eco Gardens.
Okay.
The first one, which is our luxury brand, for the we have a 2-room package. That is, the first room is like a connecting room. That one is 2,970,000 naira. Now, when I say 2,970,000 naira, people, now this actually includes, it's curated for a family of 4, daddy, mommy, and 2 kids. You have your breakfasts there, you have the lunch there, you have the dinners there. You have all access tag to all the different zones. Mind you, I didn't mention that. This time we are actually zoning all these our locations in this particular Christmas. The first zone is called the Highlands. That is the 4 different hotels. The next zone is called the Nile Garden. That is where we're dine. That is where food, everything about food takes place, food and beverages. The third zone.
Better that you describe it. When I hear dine, it sounded like die.
No, dine. When I say that, as in eat food. Yes, food. Everything, anything food and beverage, that is where that will be taking place. The third zone is the African Junction. She mentioned something about African Junction now. Now, the African Junction is actually, think about Africa street life. You're going to have lots of street life going on there. The games, you're going to have the Tales by Moonlight going on there. A lot of African antiques also will be sold there, merchandise, the kind of things you mentioned now, where you can get all this from different parts of Africa. And the last one is the Hakuna Matata Park. Now, the Hakuna Matata Park is something very, very different, because as huge as the facility in Eco Hotel is, we are actually extending our tentacles. And guess where? It's at the Eco Atlantic City, the new city. So that is where the Hakuna Matata Park will be situated. As I speak to you now, serious work is going on there, and I tell you, it's going to be a huge one, because we have ready buses that will be conveying guests from the Eco Hotel itself to the Eco Atlantic.
You told us the one that cost 3 million. How about the other packages?
The other packages are actually a little bit lower. The next one, which is actually for 1 room, still for a family of 4, and that's our luxury brand, is 2,120,000 naira. Now, for the 4 different buildings, it goes down like that until it gets to the last one. And the last one, the one you mentioned, that Kuramo Gardens, which is Eco Gardens, is about 1.5 million naira. We have
for what, 7 nights?
Lowest, for the 5 nights.
5 nights.
Yes,
okay.
for the 5 nights. Now, we have a long list of the different prices. The numbers will be displayed on the screen.
Is there a website that people can get information?
Now, we have an official ticketing partner. The biggest ticketing partner in Nigeria, Waka Now. Waka Now is actually Eco Hotel's official ticketing partner for these events.
Okay.
You can actually visit their website, www.wakanow.com. You get every detail there. And of course, the numbers that you can also call are also there, so that you can have details.
I want to ask you, madam, I see Family Olympics on the list.
Okay.
Please explain. Because the Olympics at the end of it.
Family Olympics.
That's a very, very interesting one you picked out. Okay, so I'm sure you were thinking about Olympics.
No, I just saw Olympics. So
okay, so let me tell you what Family Olympics is about. So imagine, okay, like we've said, so it's an event curated for families. So we have Family A, Family B, Family C, D, you know, registered in the hotel, and just that day we have families competing against each other with games, with activities. It could include dance, it could include sway, it could include, you know, all these beautiful kind of games. So, and we have different families, and they are being narrowed down to maybe 2, 3. So the winner gets to win something in millions.
Something in millions.
Yes, yes, interesting.
What kind of thing?
I don't want to be specific.
Get my family together quickly.
Exactly. And by the way, you need to be fast about that.
Yes, you should.
Like I mentioned before, it is no arrogance.
Okay,
our
so that's the
luxury
website.
brand.
Is that the website for the?
It's going like hotcakes.
Exactly. Yeah, our luxury brand Echo Signature is already sold out. Not that it's going like hotcakes.
It's gone.
It's actually gone now. So if you want to do, you do quick, or you be very fast about it. It's remaining the Echo Suites.
Blink and you lose out.
Blink and you lose out, exactly.
Okay, so
it's gone. The luxury one is gone, completely gone. Sorry, you can't subscribe for that one anymore. Look lower. Thank you.
It's over 100. It's over 150 rooms there. And as I speak to you, the 150 rooms are fully booked, fully paid for.
So what are we doing here?
Actually, we have the remaining ones.
Advertising for the village. For the Echo Gardens.
Not Echo Gardens alone. We have the main building. We have Echo Suite. If you want it serene, silent, the cool type, or the silent type, Echo Suite is the perfect place for you. You just come in there and you do.
How is the package different from the Signature?
It's not different at all. It's just that you are lodged in that Echo Suites.
Okay.
Only that, of course, the price is a little bit
lower.
Your
lodging is different. You are only in one room.
Why do you make it sound like that? Come on.
But that's the way it was explained.
We can also
the
have
luxury one is 2 rooms.
No. We can also have 2 rooms in all other buildings. Okay. All of them also have.
If my pocket is right, I can have 2 rooms. Right.
Exactly.
I understand. I get the message.
That are adjoining, right? Let me just hope they are adjoining rooms.
They are adjoining rooms, correct. And those adjoining rooms, because it's family thing, they are the first that get booked.
Oh.
Now, Dolakwa, the Pride Land Musical Theatre.
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay, so that's a 40-man theatre. The first one I mentioned, the Spectacular. So the Pride Land is also about, we're having 2 musical shows.
Okay.
The Spectacular and the Pride Land during this tropical Christmas event. So if you take on any of our packages, you have access to this Broadway style theatricals.
And Elf's gift delivery.
Wow. Wow. On Christmas Day, we do special things for families. Actually, very early in the morning, you will not believe, we have over 46 rooms in the entire facility. And we have people that will go to each room and knock your door to deliver Santa's gifts to you that early, before breakfast. Families are always wow.
You said
and it's going to happen this Christmas.
You said you'll have people knocking at the doors, but here you told me that they are elves.
They're elves.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean by people anyway. Santa's elves, so to say.
Okay.
Let me correct that.
So messengers of Santa.
Messengers of Santa, correct. Messengers of Santa, because Santa sent them, and just to wish everybody, every family, a Merry Christmas on that day. They come to wake you up. We will see people and we'll be like, oh, some will be on the bed, and the kids will come up and say, welcome, Santa, and it's an amazing experience. It's an amazing experience.
Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not him.
I'm waiting for you to register.
Reggie who?
Stop.
I wanted the signature and it's gone. I'm not going to sign anything anymore.
Perhaps because it's Channels TV, we might just want to do something special for you.
E.g., for instance.
I would like to know. I won't want to say it on here so that people will not like, oh, you were cheating really.
Okay, so if you want more information, these are the numbers to call: 0809-850-9525 or 0805-481-5027.
0905 is the second one.
0905-481-5027. I'm sure. Yeah, there they are. The numbers are now on your screen.
Exactly.
These are Waka Now numbers.
And those are the numbers that you can call just to get it off. We have to thank you all for being here this morning.
Thank you very much for having us.
That's Mr. Henry Freeman
Ogenovo, Assistant Brand Manager.
As well as Ibidolapo Oyeshino.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Are you going to be one of the elves? Don't answer that question. Well, we take a short break, and when we return, another one comes to you. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Part of what we began the program with this morning was talking about that young lady that plunged, herself into the lagoon for one reason or the other. And in these days when so many people are having all kinds of health challenges, some they can explain, some they can't explain. Stress levels are rising every day.
And we hear that there is good stress.
We hear there is good stress, there is bad stress. But there's stress, there is extreme stress,
and there's huge stress.
There's chronic stress, and they say that stress is not bad. I don't know, but we're not getting into that today because I can't even deal. But today, let's talk about, because at the end of the day, when we were having a conversation with our guest 2 days ago, one of the things that she said was, look, at the end of the day, everything goes to the heart. So let's talk about heart health. And Yonda Agbeniga joins us this morning. She's Principal Consultant of Media Ideas Lifestyle and Wellness Center. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
People are having issues. I don't need to tell you. You're probably having yours as well. That's what But so we're not. No one is immune from the issues that we have to deal with on a daily basis. But here we are, heart health, and what are some of those things that people are not aware of? How do we, if I can use the word, wound our hearts without even knowing that that's what we're doing?
All right. The starting point on heart health is that we should always remember that the heart is a muscle. And like every muscle, if it is not exercised or used or constantly kind of put under some form of pressure, it will develop a lot of problems. So most times people think that exercising is only to lose weight. That's the first place I'm going to start this morning. Exercising is not only to lose weight, it is to ensure that your heart keeps pumping. And that muscle is the muscle that the harder it works, the better it is. So that's why you have your cardio, you're going on your treadmill, you're doing brisk walking, you're jogging. The more you work out, the more you keep that heart active, the better it is. So that's the first thing for heart health. And we need to come up that mindset that the only reason why we exercise or we're active and we're not sedentary is because we want to lose weight. And that is that is one of the fringe benefits of exercising, and that is one of the fringe benefits of keeping healthy. That's one of the fringe benefits of losing weight, because you need that heart to work.
But so that's on the one hand, people assuming that they go to the gym or they exercise only to lose weight, but then unconsciously they are also working on their hearts and making their hearts function better. But then we also know, I was shocked one day when my coach told me that there was a day they started exercising one man, fairly young, giving him some exercise regimens. They were just doing what they call the stretch, and the man collapsed. Why are you laughing?
Of course, I know what pathology has gone wrong.
Oh, really? What happened?
It's understandable. Okay, so another thing that happens with heart health is that it's just like the kidneys until about, for the kidneys, until about 80% of the kidneys pack up before you know that, hey, there's trouble. So there's so many conditions that could have gone wrong with the heart. Some people call it ischemia, some people call it ischemia. There is angina, in which you just feel that
pain.
That's such a bad signal. It's a terrible signal when your heart just locks up and you go, oh, that's because one portion of the heart did not get oxygen, and that's a reaction. So there are so many things that could have been wrong with him, and there was no signal, no visible signal. I once had a lady walk into the center, and She came for diverse things. And pronto, we looked at the BP, it was 230 something. And she was like, oh, I walked in myself. I'm like, yes, we're going to keep you there and give you 1 or 2 things before to get that BP drop.
How did you walk in?
Yeah, that's it. So there are people like that who are not even aware that a lot of things are wrong because they feel there's no signal or there's no symptom, but really the body is already stressed out. So if that person that had ischemia goes on the treadmill or ischemia, like some people call it, that's some portion of the heart not getting oxygen. Reason, because that portion is not receiving blood supply. And you know it's the blood that carries oxygen. So he would knock out.
He hadn't even gotten on the treadmill.
That's it.
He was just stretching. You know, before you begin exercises, you first of all do some stretches, get your body ready for the thing. Now that level you do.
Now, two other things can contribute. One is either he's very fat and he's having plaque. You know that thing they call cholesterol, bad cholesterol, building up in the arteries. Now the artery is, let's say this is the pathway, the passage for blood flow, and then there's cholesterol, calcium, all sorts building up. The space for blood flow is reduced, and that blood flow is carrying oxygen and nutrients, and so it's reduced, and the blood pressure from the heart is still constant. The heart is still pumping. It's not going to stop pumping, but between the pumping area and the end point where that blood is needed, there's a blockage. So you now put so much pressure on him. There's so much pressure from the heart pumping, and there's a blockage, and that place didn't get oxygen. He knocks out.
How do people know that they need to pay attention to, because just as you're saying now that there'll be no signs.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are no signs, but there's some signs that you know. When you come in, permit me to say to the center, the very first thing we will do is take your BP, and then we take some vitals. We call it our own, our center's vitals. We do waist circumference for men because we want to see how your propensity to cardiac issues. Now, if you see a man with a big bulge, let me use the classic example. Now, like, with all due respect, the guys at the park, okay, they're very happy to have this big bulge in front of them, and they're like,
that's very African.
Yeah, like we have arrived, you know.
I am healthy and well
fed. And I'm going somewhere. So we have arrived. I don't need to run a scan. I don't need to run a check. I know that he's diabetic and he has high blood pressure. That it's a given. So the bulge, you see, just that fat, belly. That bulge, the fat deposit in the belly area, especially for men, that fat deposit there is also inside the arteries. Arteries are blood vessels, and so you'll find reduced passage of oxygen and nutrients and blood flow supplied to some portion of the heart or some portion of the body. It could trigger a stroke if that blood flow to the brain and oxygen flow to the brain is cut off. If that plaque keeps growing bigger, it could trigger. That is when you have that, oh, I can't breathe portion, you know, and then, you know, that's a warning sign. You just have that, oh, and then you hold it down, and then it goes off. Yeah, that's a warning sign that danger is ahead. It could ultimately lead to maybe a stroke or the partial stroke or whatever. And then another thing, now for the women, now necessarily having a big bulge in front might not be fat deposits. We know some women who's had CS, some people whose uterus did not go back after delivery. And so, but there's a certain number that we would check, visceral fat and all that. There's a range for that reading for women. Then constant loss of breath, people who are speaking, and there's so much palpitation. You know, there's a lot of problem with breathing, and then sometimes there's something called chronic tiredness syndrome, when the heart is not getting enough oxygen, you're just getting tired. Some form of anemia and all that could signify that something is wrong, you know, with the heart. But the best way to know is, like I say, go for a check. You know, there's specific numbers that you would know, and there's some kind of diets that predispose you to ischemia or ischemic heart attack and heart problems. Another thing that could trigger it is cortisol. Cortisol is obtained from stress. Now, the moment I say it, like in physics, there's every equal and opposite reaction. You know, for these, you get a response. For stress, not stress, the good stress, no. For stress.
Good stress.
Adrenaline release, you're just releasing cortisol. Anger, you know, all those things, you're releasing them, and adrenaline from anger is supposed to come in, and it's a hormone that should be in your body. It's a fight or flee hormone. It's not supposed to be sustained long term. So you have it sustained long term in the body, it's causing damage to the heart muscle and to other muscles. Cortisol, extra stress, extreme stress. Traffic on some part of the road.
Just say your road.
So there's release of cortisol. So for that, of course, I have my way of knocking that out. I just go under infrared for a long time. I detoxify, or I just do some terahertz therapy, run frequency over my body, and I just clean off all that cortisol. So there are a lot of things that we're using, having around us, eating and participating in that is creating.
We'll come to the nutrition part, you know, of this conversation.
Yes. Now, let's talk about blood pressure. Okay. Because as one gets older, they tell you check your blood pressure regularly. It could be a cause for heart disease and God knows, a number of other things. Talk to us about blood pressure. What is a healthy blood pressure? When should we begin to worry? At what reading should we begin to worry and go and seek medical help?
If someone who has 239 can walk into your shop.
Okay, well, basically, I would just give an average. Now, that is not cut in stone, but between 120, 80, that's fine. You know, but the truth is, if you check, I'm not very sure because I don't want to quote. If you check, I think CDC page and some pages on Wikipedia, I think the ranges are being gradually increased because it's a prevalent condition. So you see people with 122, 123, 124, and when we see people like that, if they are in their maybe late 50s and co, we're like, oh, that's still fine. But once you start saying a 180, 150, you know that, yeah, that's bad. And then when the pulse, that's the number of beats per second, goes to 100. Now, that's a real, will I say trigger point or alarm point?
Goes to 100 at rest period.
Yes, at rest period. Oh, yeah, at rest period.
52.
That's great.
Thank you.
So you just received diagnosis now?
Yeah, oh no, 52 as pulse.
Yeah. Well, it's gone to 56.
No, your pulse.
Now you've made me scared, so it's gone to 56.
No, your pulse should be 60.
58. You're making it
60,
rise.
60 is okay. Sorry, 60 is okay.
You're making it rise.
I wasn't going to say.
You've scared me.
No, 60 is just perfect. It should actually not go below that, but 60 is okay. And then you're resting, you're sitting down, you're not...
And I've been sitting down for almost 3 hours.
Yeah, so yes. I mean, that's still fine.
Okay, now... Okay, go.
Now, you have not told us where we should start getting worried.
Yeah, from
130.
Yes, and above.
But especially, don't you doctors say that the lower one is the more important one?
For me, now that's for me, once I start seeing the word on top jumping, I know that there's a lot of problem already. And then sometimes there's some biochemical markers I see when we're scanning, and maybe I see angiotensin. Once I start seeing those markers, maybe I see my troponin and all that. There's some markers that I see in the blood works that I know that, oh, there are no signals, but this is a potential condition. Once those markers are high, maybe CPK, there are some markers like that. The people in the diagnostics will understand. Once I see those markers, I know there's a problem somewhere. Maybe the heart lining has issues, or maybe there's a blockage, or there's a propensity to a stroke. Yeah, there's some numbers that when I see it, I'm like, oh, you've had a stroke or you're about to have one.
But you know, it's sad, right? People are having issues today. And there was something you said, you know, when we had this conversation 2 days ago, that the things that happen to people ultimately come straight to the heart before they begin to dissipate through the body. Talk to us about that, so that people can know how to take caution when they allow themselves to worry or be anxious.
Right, so I said earlier about bad stress, although it's just called stress. With the release of things like adrenaline and cortisol, the first thing is you need to, I once watched a video and it was a calming video when a boy was about to go into a tantrum phase, and then they told him breathe, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it calmed him down, and then he was throwing a tantrum because of the remote of the TV was seized from him. So that applies to us also when we have things that are traumatizing or you're in traffic. That's the first point. There's nothing you can do about the traffic, so breathe. Calm, take it easy, calm down. It's not very easy, but that's the starting point. You take it easy, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because you are releasing an enzyme called cortisol to the body, and it is staying in your body, and it will damage your body.
What does it do?
It's like they're like steroids that should keep you on a high. And adrenaline is that stuff that allows you to jump over a fence when you see a lion. That is not supposed to be in your body long term.
Not normally, yes.
Yes, because it just stops blood flow and directs everything to one point and say you need this energy, this blood flow, this oxygen.
So when people get
jump.
angry without taking action,
not good.
So, man, my anger is bad. Man, you don't want me to. In fact, the moment I get angry like this,
I go kill person.
So let people. So that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Essentially, just getting into negative moods has its impact
on the heart.
On the heart.
Well, and not only the heart, other conditions, trauma.
Organs.
This is a digression. Trauma triggers cancer. So, some form of cancers also can. Intense grief and a lot of those negative vibes too. So we need to be cautious. But like I would always say, check. There are checks that can tell you your 10-year predisposition to heart disease, 5-year predisposition, 1-year predisposition. We could also check your markers and see what's going on.
Wait.
That.
I'm sorry, she just said something now that you can know in 5 years if you're going to have...
Oh, yeah. 1 year, 5 years, and 10-year predisposition.
People can know?
Yes.
What kind of test is that? Okay, that's trade secret. Okay.
Now, I saw a video once when they said as you get older, the number of times you go to the bathroom in the night is not related to your kidney, but it's related to your heart. Can you please explain that to the layman, like myself?
So I saw that video also, but let me clarify. Good. For a man, the number of times you go to the bathroom in the night is related to your prostate. If the prostate is becoming enlarged, you would keep going, meaning that the tube, they call it tubal in our scientific world. So the tube that is passing urine, it's called, there's a name for it. The prostate has grown, the tube passes through the prostate, and it's like that. So that means the muscles have pushed into the tubules and blocked it. And so the kidneys and all the tract, they are already still producing urine, but it's finding it difficult to come out. So once this lower part is full, you would feel like going, and then more trickles down, you feel like going. So you could go like 10 times. That's prostate enlargement. That's prostate adenoma. Adenoma, it's a kind of cancer, but it might be benign, and it might be malignant, depending on the PSA that we see. That's the prostate-specific antigen. It's called a marker. A marker is what you use to know what's going on. So for a man, when you keep going like that, the first thing that comes to our head is, oh my goodness, this might be prostate enlargement. So we want to check for that.
Okay.
If it is a woman, the first thing that comes to our mind is either diabetes or your kidneys are producing so much fluid. That's it. If there's increased blood sugar, you're going to be going to the toilet, peeing. Frequent urination tests are all signals of diabetes.
Why are you looking at me? I'm not a doctor. So there is nothing to fear. But you recommend...
Yeah, but get checked if that kind of thing happens.
So how frequently should anyone get checked for all these things, especially the heart disease, like the heart health that you're talking about?
Well, now the norm is your figures expire after every 6 months. But for your heart, yeah. So scanning checks and all that should be done twice a year, minimum. Some do the full annual medicals once a year. But, you know, once you see any signal that just worries you, get checked.
It's just a little worrisome, but okay. How about children? Because sometimes children produce some, should I say, signals that parents are at a loss. Especially, do children have such heart conditions that are worrying as well? And how will their parents know if there are no signs?
For children, I know that children that at birth come with holes and all that, children should always see a pediatrician straight. I mean, there's no need playing around. Once you see any funny condition, a child should regularly or normally not have high blood pressure. I mean, crying out loud.
Yeah.
You know, so but once you start noticing something funny, fainting, seizures, or a whole lot of things could be wrong, much more than heart health problems. So straight to the pediatrician, straight. No, just go.
And you know that sometimes children are seemingly more vulnerable to catching a cold at the whim.
Yeah, so like I always say, people would be like, oh, there's no need to supplement. And I have my focus is wellness, you know, so of course at the wellness center, all we do more is focus on nutrition, supplements, diets and all that stuff. So I always tell people that there is always the need to supplement because you're not getting everything from your nutrition. So, yeah, but then don't hit the road and like buy this, hit that. You always need this. I always say that there's a need for guided nutritional supplementation because you need to see someone who is qualified to guide you. Okay. So you're not running amok, like hitting everywhere. And at the end, and you know, some of those things come affordable. So, you know, very good result-oriented, result-backed supplements are not particularly
just on the shelves.
Yeah,
okay, we understand. Yes. Yenta.
I get it.
I get it.
I get it,
Okay.
yes.
We have to thank you very much this morning. Yonda Beniga is MD and Principal Consultant, Media Ideas, Lifestyle and Wellness Center. Thank you again for your time today. And I guess we can safely say that that brings us to the end of Sunrise this morning. You're wondering, what happened to our home stretch? Well, the home has been stretched. It just so happens that our guest of the week, you know, got caught in traffic. That's unexpected, but hey. So, but most certainly next week we will have an artist of the week for you. For me, I say have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye for now.
And I say enjoy the rest of the weekend and the week ahead. I'm Alero Edu.
And I'm Ayo Makinde.
Bye-bye.